The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke.
Glory to you, O Lord.
Jesus went down to Capernaum, a town in Galilee, and taught them on the Sabbath. And his teaching made a deep impression on them because he spoke with authority. In the synagogue there was a man who was possessed by the spirit of an unclean devil. And it shouted at the top of its voice, "Ha! What do you want with us, Jesus of Nazareth? Have you come to destroy us? I know who you are, the Holy One of God." But Jesus said sharply, "Be quiet, come out of him." And the devil, throwing the man down in front of everyone, went out of him without hurting him at all. Astonishment seized them, and they were all saying to one another, "What teaching! He gives orders to unclean spirits with authority and power, and they come out." And reports of him went all through the surrounding countrysides. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Today we celebrate Independence Day in this beautiful twin island republic called Trinidad and Tobago.
Amen.
And we are a fortunate people. We are fortunate people because God has brought us together in this little space, in these two islands, and brought us together from the four corners of the earth. We have come here. They probably have people here from the 6 continents. It's an amazing fact that in this little space, they have the kind of diversity that we have. And it's absolutely an amazing fact that in this little space, we've managed that diversity fairly decently. And that the diversity that we have by race, by religion, by culture, by age, by gender, by all of these things, that has been part of the richness of our nation. And that, I think, is something that we should celebrate, and celebrate consciously every time we come to a national day like this. And why is it so important? Because if we understand independence, what we're really celebrating is freedom. And what is freedom? And that's really one of the national questions that we've not engaged deeply enough. What really is freedom? Many times we've taken freedom to mean freedom to do what I want to do. And is that really freedom? Because freedom to do what I want to do becomes licentiousness and living in the darkness and acting as people of the night. Because when I do what I want to do, am I really free? Because what I'm doing is expressing myself, my desires. And although I'm doing what I want to do, I now become slave to my desires. And when I'm a slave to my desires, then I am truly a slave. To talk about independence is to recognize that my freedom extends as far as your face reaches. Because if I want to put my hand out further than I have space in front of me with the next person, that's not freedom. So as we listen to our first reading from St. Paul to the Thessalonians, there's some wonderful things that St. Paul has to say to us. The people there were expecting that the day of the Lord would be imminent, and because of that, people had actually stopped working, stopped doing anything, and started sitting down waiting on the day of the Lord to come. In one part of the letter of Thessalonians, he said, if they don't work, don't give them nothing to eat. I think we should hear that, Because what he's saying is that if you believe that your freedom is freedom to do nothing, freedom not to contribute, freedom to tear down and not to build up, that is not freedom. True freedom is freedom to build, freedom to grow, freedom to become a more amazing person, a more amazing family, a more amazing village, a more amazing church, a more amazing nation. That's what true freedom brings. It brings growth, development, and becoming a better person all the time. When Paul is speaking here, he's saying, you know that I don't have to tell you about times and seasons, because you know well that the day of the Lord is coming like a thief in the night. You know, many people talk about the day of the rapture is coming, and this is the time, and we know it because of how many days from this and that, and we have all the reasons why we know exactly when the rapture is, and you know it's right now. Well, that's not what Paul is saying. He's saying when it comes like a thief in the night, that you will not know. No one will know the hour, the day, or the moment. And because of that, we live our life in a particular way. The way we live our life is always expecting that this is the day of the Lord. That it is in this day that the Lord will come, and when he comes, I will encounter him because I am ready to see him. I'm ready and available to him. And living that way means that every day is lived as if it is the day of the encounter. And every day is lived as if it is the last day that I have to become the best that I could possibly become in all of my life. And living that way stretches us beyond all of the kind of pettiness that we become so accustomed to. You know, mediocrity is a disease, huh? Mediocrity is a disease, and it spreads like wildfire. It's probably more corruptible than the microbe and the pandemic. And when mediocrity takes hold of the soul, it leaves the soul in that place of lethargy where just the soul is just floundering, and the human person is just existing. And Paul is saying we want something more than that. Because the day of the Lord will come, and don't make it catch you with your pants down. When it comes, be ready, be alert. And he gives a wonderful image of labor pains and the pregnant woman. And he says, and that pain when it comes is because there will be a child that will be born. You cannot evade it. You cannot know when it's coming, nor can you get around it when it does come. And to move into this reflection, he says, but it is not as if you live in the dark, my brothers, for the day to overtake you like a thief. No, you are all sons of the light, sons of day. We no longer belong to night or to darkness, so we should not be sleeping as everyone else does. Paul is exhorting the Thessalonians to an excellence in faith, an excellence in charity, an excellence in love. Paul is exhorting them to an excellence. When he says, it is not as if we live in the dark, my brothers, for that day to overtake you like a thief. Paul is referring back, and St. John in his gospel, on the moment when Judas went out to betray Jesus, St. John says, and night fell. The play with light and darkness, Paul does it and St. John does it. And the light and the dark is not just a physical time of day, it's a time of day in our soul. When St. John says, and night fell, he's talking about the darkness that fell over the soul of Judas, that stopped Judas from actually seeing or understanding how evil his actions were. And he lived in the dark so that day overtook him like the thief in the night. And Judas was not able to recognize that the day that was coming when Christ would be crucified is the day of the Lord. All of the prophets prophesied the day of the Lord as this great and terrible day. It is a great and terrible day because God was killed in the most brutal way possible. But it was a day of awe and wonder because God chose to give himself for you and for me that we can have salvation. That choice of God is a choice for love, the choice for excellence that invites every single one of us into that heart of God to be a people of love and excellence. In the reading, he's saying that don't let that day overtake you like a thief. You are all sons of the light and sons of the day. You no longer live in the dark and in the night and the darkness. We've been called people of the Trinity. The Trinity is three persons, one God. Equal in majesty. but one in person. Diverse, yet united. Different in so many ways, yet equal. We've been called La Trinity. And when Paul is saying that we must stay awake, that's, as Trinidadians and Tobagonians, that's what we have to stay awake to. We have to stay awake to the way in which we sometimes slip into the darkness and into the night of not recognizing in the face of the other, the face of God. Especially the other who is different from me. Especially the other who looks different, talks different, acts different from how I look, talk and act. That other is a one that I must start recognizing the face of God in. And in understanding that, brothers and sisters, is to understand that other, especially when they're poor, needy, and have demands that they make because of the life circumstance they're in, that other, and the meeting of that other is the meeting of the Lord in that day. Because Jesus says, I was hungry, I was naked, I was sick, I was in prison, and you either did or you didn't do for me. Our nation is an amazingly generous nation. Our people are amazingly generous. There is no disaster in the Caribbean where Trinidad and Tobago is not at the forefront of generosity, and they're doing amazing things to ensure that people receive what they need. Our generosity in the whole region is legendary. In every single disaster we've had in the last I don't know how many years, we have been there and been incredibly generous. That's the deep character of who we are on one side when we are awake. That's us being awake. Us, when we are asleep, has a different character, where we could be incredibly intolerable of each other, bringing each other down, calling each other by names that just should never be pronounced, despising each other simply because we came from a different continent, or our parents came from a different continent, and that we look differently from each other, that we have this dark side of ourselves where we could start being lacking generosity to one another, and even in the household sometimes that lack of generosity translates in the way that we speak to one another at home with incredible disrespect. And that too is part of the darkness and the night that St. Paul is speaking about in this text. When he says that we do not belong to the night or to darkness, so we should not go on sleeping. Staying awake is staying alert and alive to the truth that God is in this place. Yeah. God is in this place. I want you to remember that God is in this place. God dwells here. And in the expressions of our creativity, and in the expressions of our generosity, in the expressions of our tolerance, in the expressions of our ability to be with each other when we are so different, when we are at our best and when we are awake, that capacity, brothers and sisters, is really amazing. And that's the best of who we are. It really is. And it's who we have been called by God to become. It's who we have been called by God to become as a people and as a nation. Stay awake. In the Desert Fathers, the staying awake is this understanding of spirituality. Lest your heart be coarsened by drunkenness, debauchery, and the care of the world. And so when Paul says, stay awake, do not go on sleeping as everyone else does, but stay wide awake and sober. Stay wide awake and sober. Wide awake and sober to the truth that if you and I could learn to live with each other and celebrate the differences that we have, and live in that way, not just on a daily basis, but especially when an election comes. And especially when there is one party or the other is in power. And especially when we are being pushed. If we could learn to see in the other the face of God, then there's nothing that would stop us as a people from flourishing as a nation. Nothing will stand in our way. But we come at 59 years and we come to a time where we have to grow up. And the growing up is recognizing, brothers and sisters, that my desires can't lead my life. Something else has to lead it. Because in Trinidad and Tobago, that's where we've come to. I feel, I want, I like, I think, and therefore I do. That's not how it is. As Christians, we know that our life is led by the desire of God on us. Bend my heart to your will, O God. When we become people who live by expressing our desires, and that's all that dictates where we live, we're heading for certain ruin. That's the night that Paul is speaking about, and that's the darkness that St. Paul is speaking about. The people of the light are the people who understand that God's will is more important than my will. And I suppress my desires for the desire of God. And I am willing to sacrifice. Sacrifice is giving up something good for something that is better. I'm willing to sacrifice my desires for the sake of living the desire of God in my life, in my family, and in this beautiful, wonderful, and amazing nation that we have. There's so much that we have to thank God for as a people. So much that we have to thank God for as a nation. That despite all of the challenge of our history, we have emerged and managed to hold peace in this place with all the odds against us. That's quite amazing. That even in the midst of this pandemic, that people have started soup kitchens all over the place and done feeding and contributed and made sandwiches and brought food and ensured that people who don't have got something to eat. That is absolutely amazing. That's the best of who we are in the generosity and our spirit as Trinidad and Tobago. That's our best side. And we could become even better than that. We have to recognize the dark side too. And we have to wake up. Wake up and grow up. And the waking up is recognizing every single day, in every single moment, God is present. If I have the eyes to see. If I am awake, I would see him present in the faces that come to me. So today, on this beautiful day of our independence, let us promise our God. Let's make a promise to God that we will celebrate the diversity of this nation. And especially the people who are totally different from me, we will celebrate their culture, their diversity, their gift to us as Trinidad and Tobago. We will celebrate it. And then when we sing our national anthem, and we say, let every creed and race have an equal place, it will be true. And then the next line will be most amazing. And may God bless our nation. Amen.